What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 21 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're coming to you kind of late today on Monday night. Mike is just coming back from a very exciting road trip that we are going to jump right into, and he's going to go ahead and talk about as we recap the Raiders versus Giants game. Mike, tell us about your trip.
Yeah, I was just hanging out Thursday night, and I couldn't help but feel a little excited about this Sunday and, the coaching change. And I just thought to myself, well, I looked at the schedule and I saw a preview on Fox about the game of the week, Eagles versus Cowboys. And then I noticed at some point, oh, the Raiders are playing the Giants on Fox this week. And I put two and two together, and I was like, I don't think the Raider game is going to play in California. I think they're going to play the game of the week. And I was like, oh, let me just look at ticket prices. Like, why not, right? And I found these seats that, honestly, I couldn't pass up. And, yeah, long story short, make the drive out there. Long drive. Very close friend. Shout out to Paulina. And, yeah, it was a great game. Great game. First time seeing a game in Vegas. I've been there before for a stadium tour, but being there at the game is a little different. And I mean, yeah, the seats were those are the best seats I had ever sit in a game in any sporting event. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, I see this in the chat. I want to get to this before Anthony goes to bed. But Anthony says today is his birthday. He's 33 today. Happy birthday, Anthony.
Happy birthday.
I'm glad the Raiders were able to get a win for you, for your birthday. Mike, so what was the experience like? You were sitting sort of in the lower section, field level, right?
Field level, end zone, right in the middle, row 7, first deck, section.
Were you where the club is?
No, the opposite end.
Okay. I was like, Mike was over at the gate.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, there's a football game going on.
I was opposite the torch. So that, I mean, it was cool. I got.
So you had the view of the torch the whole game.
I had the view of the torch, which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted to be able to see out the window behind it and everything. And it was perfect. So,
but really, the view of the torch was actually the story of the game because the New York Giants got torched by the Raiders, and they had no O'Connell.
It felt like the summary of the game for sure. So let's see here. The Raiders ended up winning 30-6 in front of 62,000 fans. And just based off of my eyes, I would say it was probably a good 65 to 70% Raider fans, but it still felt like a lot of Giants fans, right? Especially on the Giants side, their sideline, right? Especially where their tunnel came out, or where the players came out of the tunnel and everything. I think I sent you a video on Twitter. If you want to check that, you could kind of put it up while we talk about it,
Yeah,
just
I'll
to
put
kind of
it up
show where I
first.
was sitting.
Thank
But just
God
some
I
quick
didn't share
notes.
screen first. The algorithm on Twitter is wild.
Mhm. Um, so just some notes before I get into like actual stats and such. Uh, the offense was great in the first half. Um, obviously, Aiden O'Connell started. Um, Bo Hardigree was calling plays for the first time this season. I think first time ever in the NFL. And again, in the first half, it looked good. Um, and developing the run game with Josh Jacobs was clearly one of the prime focuses on offense, and that's what I've been calling for all season. That's that's what they have to do, right?
Hmm.
Um, Also, lots of pre-snap motion, misdirection. Tristan Kuhn on Twitter put in a tweet that these fakes and all the misdirection pre-snap lead guys into space, and really it makes it easier for Aiden O'Connell, right?
Hmm.
Here's
So
kind of this
this was Mike's view.
Aiden O'Connell throwing to Devontae.
I mean, it's no Levi's Stadium, but I guess it's kind
Well,
of nice.
it's funny, I didn't expect to go to two straight football games, 2 weekends in a row. Going to Levi's for the Bengals game last weekend and then ending up in Vegas the following weekend. But it's unfair to compare the seats,
Hmm.
between my view at the Niner game and this game. But I mean, the stadium, the atmosphere at a Allegiant in Vegas is like it's top notch for sure. And that's coming from a team who just fired its coach, and they look like they're definitely on the outside looking in as far as the playoffs go. Uh, but there's definitely new life breathed into this team,
Hmm.
this Raiders team with Antonio Pierce, and I'll definitely get more into Antonio Pierce as we go here.
Hmm.
I want
Before
to
you
send
get
a
into
couple
that,
more. Yeah, go ahead.
um, how all right? Because you've been to many Raider games in Oakland. How would you compare and contrast the experience of the Raider games in Oakland versus the Raider game that you just witnessed in Vegas? Because it was a pretty exciting game for you guys because you just let go of Josh McDaniels and uh, you have Antonio Pierce fill in, and he is absolutely embodying everything that, at least from my perspective, what the Raiders are trying to aim for.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah. I compared to Oakland. Okay,
We're gonna find out if you're a
Oakland.
real Raider fan here.
Well, obviously, I'm loyal to the Bay and loyal to the Oakland Raiders. Um, this stadium experience is top notch, top notch. And I mean, I've never been to like a Dallas, or apparently Minnesota might have the best stadium in football. But if you're comparing the stadiums, obviously it's not close. Comparing the atmosphere, I think that was your question.
Like the fans, because like there's there's a huge difference between like, I mean, clearly Allegiant Stadium is a better like venue than the Oakland
Yeah, yeah,
Coliseum. Like it's not even like close, but like the way the fans, react to things, the way they, act, like what's it like when you go from the parking lot, it's it helps give the stadium life. And
right.
there's things that I've heard about Candlestick that, like, fans miss about Candlestick versus, the Niners new stadium. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
But like
right.
you could argue that in every, I mean, not every way, I hear there's like some drawbacks, but you could argue there are some good things that give like Levi's its own charm, you know? So like
Mhm.
what were those, for you?
Well, okay. The fact that it's indoors is different. Um, I mean, what gives it a different charm is obviously the city that it's in, right? Vegas is so it's all show, right? For example, pregame, just before the Raiders are coming out of the tunnel. In Oakland, it was simply okay. The Giants are coming out, and they might play like an '80s rock song, dun, 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 right? And then Giants come out, boo, and then all of a sudden you hear Hell's Bells, and it's like, it's going, and the Raiders come out and stuff. But it wasn't so cinematic, right? I mean, they had 3 big screens in this stadium. It's so nice. But it being Vegas, they have a countdown before the players come out, and it's like starting at 20 minutes, and it just slowly goes down until it's like 5 minutes, and like 5 minutes until the show begins is the way that they call it, and then the show will begin in 10 seconds, 9, 8. They keep saying it, the show, and it's like, okay, Vegas, this is a show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a little taste of it, and then the fact, like, now this game might be different than, say, when they face the Chiefs, and right now, obviously the Chiefs are a better team. Let's say the Chiefs come into town and they beat the Raiders 28-17, 28-10, right? Not a fun game for Raider fans. Chiefs hold the lead the whole time. And oh, by the way, because the Chiefs are a great team and their fans are going to show up, it might be 50-50, if not worse, Chiefs fans, right? Depending on the hype for the Raiders and all that, But I could see that being a lot different. But in this sense, we blow out the Giants. It was cool, obviously. But it felt like a Raider game. Honestly, I had been to so many Oakland Raider games. I've had season tickets in Oakland. It felt like a Raider game. And maybe that's because they won, because we scored many touchdowns. We got multiple interceptions in this game. The crowd was roaring.
If you're saying it's because you won, then, maybe it didn't feel like a Raider game. Considering the past 20 years, I had to give that little jab to you. I'm sorry to the Raider fans in the chat.
Well, in the sense of excitement in the air, like a week ago with Josh McDaniels, the fans might have just sat there. Obviously, let's say they have a semi-close game and they lose at the end, like, fans would not be as excited. But I swear to you, dude, like, Antonio Pierce and the whole vibe, it felt like how it should feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the best way I could put it feels like a Raider game. Like, I was happy and content with that, and more than happy with, their home, their stadium. Like, that is world class. Like, unfortunately for Oakland and me being a Bay Area guy, they're never coming back. They're never leaving Vegas. Like, but I can at least be happy with the fact that they are situated well. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is that they need to start winning and becoming a consistent winner so that the fans can start really showing up when they need to.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing on that.
Is it true that Mark Davis got a haircut?
I didn't see it personally, but I saw it on Twitter. I know I sent it to you. It looked like it. He looked like he had a different level of, like, swagger to him based off the videos and stuff that I saw.
Yeah, so check this out. In last week's, I feel like all off season, and, like, going into the season, I was like saying, Mark Davis has got I've been poking fun at Mark Davis's hair, but the Raiders are 1-0 when he finally switches it up a little bit. Like, it's not that much different than what he had before, but I feel like he doesn't have, like, the bangs in the front. Like, he's evolving,
Yeah.
So
how about let's have you play the second video that I sent you on Twitter. There's now 4. The fourth one's sending right now. But play the second one. It's going to be long, 2 minutes, 20 seconds, and I'm going to talk as it plays.
Okay. Do you want me to mute it?
Sure. Yeah. Might as well, because it's just gonna be fans talking. But where I was at, there we go. Obviously, it's the stretch, pregame, and then the camera will focus on Coach right here, and we're just gonna follow him as he high fives every single player.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Hey, there's Jimmy.
Yeah, and he even gives him a high five.
Yep.
And Jimmy was the QB too, so there's that.
Yeah, so if O'Connell would have went down, Jimmy would have been back in. And I think I remember last week that you mentioned that you don't think that we're going to see any more Jimmy because of the whole contract thing.
Yeah, well, that was my hope, but it seems like, should shit hit the fan, Jimmy would be the guy that comes in. So, but last thing I was saying about the offense, lots of fakes, misdirection, which, as Tristan Kuhn put it on Twitter, makes it easier on Aiden O'Connell, right? Makes it easier to make some plays. But with that being said, according to Ted Nguyen on Twitter, Aiden also checked out of a run play to a pass play on a 3rd and short and threw a pass to Devontae Adams for a first down. So Aiden O'Connell was also calling his own audibles, commanding the offense, right? And I also saw a post-game interview with Josh Jacobs where, somebody asked him, like, what'd you say to Aiden O'Connell before the game? And did you have anything to say to him? And Josh was just like, I just told him, when in doubt, hand it to me, And good idea, dude. Good idea. He ran the ball 26 times, and that's what we want to see. So,
the dude's getting ready to kick someone like a horse.
Yeah. And then also, okay, the offense looked great in the first half, but in the second half, it really, really slowed down and was not quite as good, to put it lightly. And Tristan Kuhn also put on Twitter, it's possible that they didn't want to put too much on film. It was clear, the Giants had their 3rd-string quarterback in. We're up by 24 points. There's no real need to go out there and, go crazy on them, right? But still, you would like to see the offense go down, just run down their throat and win by 40. But that didn't happen. This is the opening touchdown on the Raiders' first offensive possession. It's Jacoby Myers on an end around.
Mike, I don't hear you cheering.
Yeah, I was focusing on filming. But, honestly, this play, it got loud, but the play that got the loudest, and I didn't have my camera out, it wasn't a play where I was expecting something big. The big Amik Robertson interception.
Oh, dude, that was such a nice play.
Great play, dude. And it happened right here. See where that goalpost? It was right in front of me. I stood up and just see him diving.
Was it right here?
Basically where Trevon Merrick is, 25.
Yeah. Okay,
that's where it was right in front of me. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And this is the Giants' lone touchdown play, I'm pretty sure. So obviously some Giants fans were there, but so players of the game, obviously Max Crosby. The dude had a crazy game. I'll get into the stats in a sec here. Amik Robertson. Oh my gosh, dude. Obviously Aiden O'Connell getting his first start actually not first start, but his first win as a starter. And then Josh Jacobs. 26 carries, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Anthony says sick footage. It is pretty sick footage.
I'll tell you what, dude. I have no idea what season tickets cost at that stadium. I have no idea what that would be like for me to try to attempt to do that, being that I live in the Bay Area and everything. But I Going to that game and sitting in those seats, like I would kill to someday have the opportunity to have season tickets at that stadium. Oh my gosh. Someday when they're, consistently a winner, I have to do it someday in my life for sure. Josh Jacobs has already set his season highs for a game in several categories. Rush yards, 85. Touchdowns, 10-yard rushes. He had 2. And this was in the third quarter. That was tweeted by Paul Gutierrez. Aiden O'Connell, 16 for 25, 209 yards. In the first quarter? Oh, I'm sorry. 16 to 25, 209 yards. Completed passes to 8 different receivers. He's very accurate, very quick with his decisions, as we saw in the preseason. Obviously we're hoping to see him progress as the season goes on, and, we'll see how he goes. In the first half, he was 9 of 10. So then second half, kind of went down. But obviously, again, they were up big. They didn't need to pass so much. Trey Tucker led in receiving yards, 2 catches for 52 yards. He had a deep catch, almost a touchdown, but couldn't quite keep his footing. He had to dive for it. Devontae Adams led the team with 7 targets, had 4 catches for 34 yards. Hunter Renfrow had 2 catches for 32 yards. He was probably 1 or 2 players away from getting a little touchdown, but it was nice to see Renfrow out there. Jacoby Myers, 2 for 38, plus the 17-yard touchdown on the end around. Offensive line, man, 0 sacks given up in this game. And this is against a really, solid defensive line on the Giants. Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. I just saw a tweet that they have a combined 50 or 11.5 sacks, those 2 players, and a lot of pressures. Both of them had none. Or maybe it was QB hits. But none for both of them in this game. Andre James, this is from Tristan Kuhn, currently holds a 98% run block win rate, which is 3rd for interior offensive linemen, 2nd at center on the season. And then also Dexter Lawrence, coming off a near record 15 pressures last week, recorded 0 versus the Raiders. And it's the first time he's failed to pressure the QB since week 13 of 2021. So obviously the offensive line had a great game. And really, I would have figured the offense would play a little better, but really it's the defense that's going to show up in this game. But everybody showed up. Everybody was fired up with this, new coach, new mindset.
I really dislike Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't like him.
Yeah, he is easily just a villain in this league, and he's totally accepted that. He's taken it on. Yeah.
I don't know if he's accepted it and taken it on, or if he's just straight up like a douche.
Well, whatever he is, he doesn't mind being that.
Yeah.
That's him apparently.
Whether he minds or not, that's just what he is.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what he portrays himself as.
For sure.
Whether he tries to or not.
Yeah. It seems effortless.
Yeah.
So, but he didn't have any chance to do anything against the Raiders, so I can't be mad. Jacob Johnson.
Look at you with your little smirk.
Yeah. Is that his name? Jacob Johnson? I might have got that wrong. Well, the fullback for the Raiders was out due to a concussion. And in his place was actually the backup offensive guard, Netani Muti, who came in and played a few plays at fullback. I didn't notice it. But that's a great idea. Come on.
There needs to
offensive
be
guard.
More linemen, period, just playing fullback. I would love, I've had this idea for a while. What would opposing defenses do if the Niners lined up Javon Kinlaw at fullback on the goal line?
Yeah, I don't know which team it was over the weekend, scored a touchdown with a defensive tackle. He lined up at fullback and he, went across the line and everything. That or a backup guard. You hear all the time this player reports is eligible. And usually they just sit essentially as tight end on a big, obvious run play. But the amount of teams that don't use fullbacks, period, this should be the way that fullbacks transcend, right? You can either be a team with like a use check or a Marcel Reese type, right? An Alec Ingold, a jack of all trades sort of player, or you can just not roster a fullback and just put your backup guard at fullback a couple plays a game. Why not? That feels like it should be pretty successful to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that for offense. AJ Cole, every time he touched a football, he was ready to boot that thing out of the stadium. In fact, he set an NFL single game record with a 63.6 yard punt per average. Sorry, per punt average. Highest in NFL history in one game. Minimum of 4 punts.
You know, typically it's a bad thing when your punter sets NFL records in a game. But for the Raiders,
Yeah.
I mean, it turned out to be a good thing. But typically when you hear punter records, it's like, oh, they punted for the most times since 1960.
Yeah. Well, it was mostly happening in the second half. Luckily, when the game was already it felt pretty over. But I mean,
All right, Anthony, I hope you have a great birthday. Thank you for checking us out. And you can always tune in. I know you were commenting about Brock Purdy. Sorry to interrupt, Mike. I know you were commenting about Brock Purdy. You can check out the Niner videos if you're, interested in, me talking about it. So we'll see. I might have a little to talk about Purdy. Go ahead, Mike.
Every time that he punted, he got it within 3 yards of the pylon every single time. And there was one time where I thought he got it right on the 1 yard line, like from my view, but it turns out he went in the end zone. But he was punting it from like the 30-yard line, the opposite side of the field, and just booting it as far as he could. It was, I was sitting there. There was a couple times he kicked it away from me. I was like, oh my God. So NFL record that I got to witness was pretty cool.
Joel says he thinks that the defensive lineman lined up at fullback was on the Saints.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It might
makes sense that it was the Saints because they line up Taysom Hill anywhere. So like I guess anybody is just available.
Who played on Thursday? Thursday Night Football?
It was
also welcome in, Joel.
Who played on Thursday? I know it.
Oh, Steelers and
Titans.
Titans. It was the Titans. It was Jeffrey Simmons. Simmons. Yeah. But maybe the Saints did too. I don't see why you wouldn't. Just put a big body out there. So a linebacker is not getting through them unless they evade them. And then even when they do that, like they have to take themselves out of the play in a way.
Mm-hmm. You know why they don't do that?
Because they don't want to get hurt.
No, because sometimes these coaches, they don't sit back and think. Like, all right, you have, your strongest unit on your team is typically your defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Well, stick them in there. Yeah. What are they going to do on the sideline? Like, obviously they're resting up, but, it wouldn't hurt for one play. We want to see that.
Yeah. Speaking of coaches not thinking, can you go to the Twitter messages that I sent you? Up at the top, the first one that I sent you from Tristan Kuhn. It's below the Antonio Pierce one, which I do want to watch that Antonio Pierce video later.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Just put it on the screen and I'll just keep talking.
A lot.
From Tristan Kuhn. Right below a video of yes, yeah. So coach is not thinking, right? Obviously, this is in relation to Josh McDaniels here.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Hardegree has run more pre-snap motion in one single drive than I think McDaniels did in any game. Mm-hmm. It genuinely probably isn't a fact, but it feels like it is. It's like it's a known fact. Like offenses are more successful when you have pre-snap motion. You get to give the quarterback a little bit to read before he starts the play. And you get to throw off the defense a little, like just a little bit of trickeration and confusion, please. Mm-hmm. Misdirection, right? Anyways, that's just the McDaniels dig.
I mean, like pre-snap motion essentially will tell you whether the defense is playing man or zone coverage. Right. And it's like a little bit of a cheat code.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you use it? I mean,
Exactly.
unless you're in like the 2-minute drill, then like, a guy like Kyle Shanahan needs to stop using, pre-snap motion and like draining the clock and losing
Right.
all those football games when you're down in the fourth quarter. But, otherwise, if you're in control of the game, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing pre-snap motion or, I don't see a good reason why, if it gives you a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah. So Max Crosby, 8 total tackles, 3 sacks, 4 QB hits, 6 pressures, 3 tackles for loss. Have a game.
It's a pretty good game.
This is from Raiders PR. So the Raiders have like a PR account on Twitter. Crosby now has 77 career tackles for loss. This was probably in the first or second quarter. Like he might have got 1 or 2 more after this. Crosby now has 77 career tackles for loss, passing Jared Allen 76, DeMarcus Ware 76, TJ Watt 76, for 5th most in NFL history since 1999 when it was recorded, among players in their first 75 career games. So he's not passing Jared Allen or DeMarcus Ware like all time, but in their first 75 career games, he's above those guys. In their first 75 career games.
Question.
So,
would you consider Max Crosby a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year?
I wasn't really feeling too strongly about this until this weekend. And I sent you a video, but I don't want you to play it just in case of copyright. On I think it's Fox's pregame, Charles Woodson came out and said, if I were voting for Defensive Player of the Year, I'd be voting for Max Crosby. And that was before the Raider game today or Sunday.
Mm-hmm. And he got 3 sacks.
Yeah, actually, can you go to my quote? Can you go to my profile and pull up the most recent tweet that I put out? I didn't send it to you, but like actually on my profile.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because you never know with Twitter,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll keep going for now while you look for it. Robert Spillane led the team in tackles with 9, as well as sharing a sack with Tyree Wilson, first-round pick. Wilson had 2 pressures and 2 QB hits. Trevon Merrick gave up the lone touchdown in coverage. We played it earlier. He kind of just got caught looking at the quarterback, let the guy just roll out behind him. I think he kind of assumed Marcus Peters was going to cover the guy, but there were 2 receivers in the area.
Mm-hmm. We're about to plug your Twitter right now. Look at this.
Yes,
look at this.
I mean, we always are, but
Look at that. See, that's proof that he was at the game. This isn't just anyone. This is Michael.
Yeah. It's funny because it says
that
Adams.
Eli Manning should have told that guy to kick rocks.
I know. I should have just kicked him.
It's
going to be below the pinned tweet.
Co-creator of the Silver and Gold podcast. Wow. Raiders bless. YouTube.com. Okay.
Below the pinned tweet. That one right there. So here you go. If you want to talk about Defensive Player of the Year. So it's a statistical comparison between the edge players currently favored for Defensive Player of the Year between Myles Garrett. Who the hell would Hunter be? Am I forgetting somebody?
Danielle Hunter?
Obviously I am. There you go. Yep. Danielle Hunter from the Vikings. TJ Watt from the Steelers. Max Crosby. Micah Parsons. And Hendrickson from the Bengals. Obviously, red is a little low for that statistic. Green is high. And obviously, you could see my tweet. I'm seeing a lot of green for a certain individual. Now, one of those greens is snaps,
so
and that
green,
helps.
Green means it's the highest in that category.
It means yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so
correct.
Snaps, Garrett has the lowest. Crosby has the highest.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like by far. So
and that's expected.
Crosby's playing more snaps than any of the candidates.
That's been a thing with him. That's been a thing with Crosby, and he's like the lone guy that's playing 100% snaps like every game. He's the one guy.
So if you think about it, TJ Watt has 0.5 more sacks, but in like a little bit over 100 less snaps. So
Yeah.
the
It's
percentage
a,
is a little higher.
yeah, that would be the one thing with Crosby is the percentage is different. But you also have to
Yeah.
bear in mind he's playing on a defense that is far worse than almost all of these players, maybe besides Danielle Hunter.
hmm Tackles for loss, stops. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think you can hold it that much against Crosby because it's like, you know, on one
He's the
hand,
only
it's like,
guy.
yeah, he's playing more football, but on the other hand, it's like that makes him a little bit more valuable if you really think about it because he's, you know, on the field more. But
And
then
also
again, if he's
consider
on the field more,
he
you
could
sort of
get
start
more
to think,
stats, but you got to consider he's also getting triple teamed. There
mhm,
was a play where he got triple teamed. He was trying to spin out of it. Quarterback rolls out, tries to scramble and go for a gain. Crosby goes full sprint and tracks him down and pushes him out of bounds for a loss, for a sack.
mhm.
It was
I
insane. If I can find it, we'll play it.
I will play devil's advocate here, and I will just say that I think that most of the people on this spreadsheet get double and triple teamed as well.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's like it doesn't mean you're not a good player. Or,
Yeah. No,
I'm not trying
100%.
to bash Crosby.
Yeah. I mean, Boza also gets triple teamed, and where's he?
hmm Yeah, I
Anyway,
mean, even when he doesn't get triple teamed, where is he this season?
yeah,
We
unfortunately.
miss you, Nick Bosa.
Um,
We miss the poor Nick Bosa, not the rich Nick Bosa.
and I mean, that's another thing with Crosby is like last year he didn't get an all pro nod in favor
Mhm,
of the Eagles defensive end or rusher, what do you want to call him? Hassan Reddick. And
mhm,
Max Crosby tweeted like noted, like with pen and paper, like he took that to heart. And now you see his stats this season. It's like he's leading in most stats. Legit.
mhm. Is
So
there is there like any other position players on defense that might possibly be in the running for defensive player of the year?
other than a edge rusher,
Yeah, other than an edge rusher, you know what I mean? Like maybe a linebacker who's really playing well, a
possibly Fred Warner.
safety, a corner.
I could give you
I
Fred Warner. Safety, probably not. Corner, maybe. I can't think of any corners. There might be a few corners out there that are doing really good, but I can't think of one. I feel like it's going to be an edge rusher this year, unless Fred Warner goes crazy after the bye, right?
mhm. I just
I
wonder.
mean,
I wonder
yeah,
if defensive player of the year is going to sort of, you know, like
become like
turn
the
into.
MVP where it's always
Yeah,
quarterback.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's possible, but I think there's more likelihood that there's a player on defense that like kills it. Like, I mean, back in 2007, Charles Woodson had the defensive player of the year where he was just getting hella touchdowns and shit. You're going to have players that do that sort of stuff that are just different. And I think a player like Fred Warner is one of those guys. Um,
Mhm.
but all that being said, this weekend, this Sunday's game, I realized like, oh, yeah, Crosby's easily in the conversation. Easily. He's 1000%. I would say, looking at this list, there's 6 guys. He's top 5 for sure in the running, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, I would probably take out, I'd probably take out Hendrickson. Um, and I'd put Crosby above Danielle Hunter. And I mean, looking at the stats, I'd put him above Micah Parsons as well. TJ Watt and
Well,
Myles Garrett were always the guys that I've considered to be the favorites so far.
the only
And
reason why
also just consider
Daniil
this is the last thing I'll say about this. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna point out the only reason why Daniil Hunter is on this list is because his tackle for losses are, you know, uh,
Yeah.
they're at the top,
Well,
right, for the stats.
up until this week, he's been the leader in sacks, the leader. And then just this past weekend or
He
Thursday,
got
TJ
eclipsed.
Watt overtook him. Yeah, and now Myles Garrett and Crosby are tied with him. So his stats clearly looking. I mean, he has the most red, I would say. His stats are
He
actually
has the
looking
most
the
red,
least
but
impressive.
you're saying Hendrickson, might be bumped off this list, Hendrickson's stats don't look that bad. He's just sort of like in the middle of everyone here.
Yeah, and also just looking quickly, he has the least amount of snaps by far. If you do the percentage here, Hendrickson might actually be the most impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but because of the low amount of snaps and honestly the lack of recognition around the league, I think he's not going to get it. I think the most hype guys are Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, and Max Crosby. And
I
Boza
think
should be in that list, but he's nowhere to be seen right now.
he's still on vacation. I think he's still holding out for that new contract. He must
Yeah.
be. But one thing that really jumps out to me is this number right here, the run stop win rate, or win percentage. Max Crosby nearly wins half of every single run rep. That to me, that's crazy.
He's insane versus the run. Insane. And then I
And
mean
that
even
really
his
tells you that
pass
he's really
rush.
skilled with his hands and he's quick.
Yeah. And also like bear in mind the most snaps out of all these guys and his pass rush win rate is the fourth highest of these guys. He's better than TJ Watt and Danielle Hunter. That's pretty impressive, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joel has a really great question. How much does it matter if your team is winning to win defensive player of the year?
I was thinking about this earlier.
Yeah.
The best I can think about is Khalil Mack, 2016, right? Raiders go to the playoffs, first time since 2002, and he had a crazy season. I think getting to the playoffs mattered big time. Even though they didn't win a playoff game after that, I think making the playoffs was a big deal. And of course, his stats and the fact that he was doing it linebacker and defensive end. Crosby, I think he can win it if the Raiders
make the playoffs.
No. I think they just need to have a winning record under Antonio Pierce. If they become a team that is a force to be reckoned with, and any team that faces them is scared of them, knows that they can beat them, and Max Crosby's obviously going on a fucking crazy tear, he can win it. Because I don't see any of these guys right now separating themselves so far from him that they have to win it. The only way is if Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons have multiple games on prime time and they take over those games. And I'm not saying that's the only way that they beat out Max Crosby. I'm saying that's the only way that they separate themselves from him. Right?
I think if the Raiders if the Raiders don't make the playoffs, I think Max Crosby would have to absolutely be far and beyond all of the other players in order to win defensive player of the year, because just having the best stats doesn't give you, like, I think sports writers and NFL executives vote on, well, actually I don't know if sports writers vote on this, but I'm assuming NFL executives.
I think it's the Associated Press, but I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I don't know who votes on this, but I'm sure that backstory, goes into it, because it, for awards like this, it's not always, who had the best stats. It's like, there's context that also gets like brought into this, and I think it would be a nice story, if the Raiders finish with a winning record under Antonio Pierce, but I don't know if it's everything to win this award, because there was still the time, there was still almost half the season with Josh McDaniels, and, the defense was playing well, but like, it just wasn't enough to win games. You know what I mean?
Okay. I don't think that the coach matters. I know I mentioned Antonio Pierce, but really what I'm saying is, like, for the remainder of the season, like, this team needs to become something more than what they've been, which, looking at the Giants game, they're on the right track. But really, the way that I look at it is, does he make his team better? Does he make his defense better? Okay. The past couple years, this defense, horrible. This year, under McDaniels, the defense was keeping them in games. And then in this game against the Giants, the defense created turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, the offense, they scored I think both of the rushing touchdowns with Jacobs off of turnovers. Otherwise, the opening drive was very well scripted, and it was run beautifully, and they got the end around to Jacoby Myers. You take away those turnovers, they might not win the game. No offense to Aiden O'Connell and the rest of the coaching staff, but I don't know how it goes without those turnovers. And I'm sure Max Crosby is a big part of that. So I think if their defense plays up to the standard of, having a perennial, I would say all pro on the roster who is in the running for defensive player of the year, and he changes games consistently, he's in the running. But a guy like Myles Garrett or TJ Watt making so many big plays, especially in prime time, to the point where he helps get their team to the playoffs, there's a good likelihood that they surpass Max Crosby. But there's still the stats at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So we will see.
You said you don't know if they win this game, but I do, because they win that game because I said so. So, going back to like recapping the game, at least as far as like talking about my prediction for the game, I predicted that there was going to be high energy in this stadium, and there was going to be excitement, a new regime, well, not regime, but a new era, sort of like new coach, new leader. The team is going to be run different.
It was a new set of hope, a new sense of hope. 100%.
Now, what do you think fans were more excited about? Were they more excited about Antonio Pierce being hired or Josh McDaniels being fired?
100% McDaniels being fired.
Okay.
Now that's no
stuff that came out after the stuff that the media stuff that they were putting out, to hype up Antonio Pierce and his press conference and everything. I'm sure that added to that, and it was probably rocking in Vegas.
1,000%. Yes, all the material that they put out this week, to hype us up on Antonio Pierce, absolutely helped. And I have more things to say about Pierce. I'm just kind of saving it for a little bit. But yeah, we both predicted the Raiders would win, and I'm very happy to report that they did in great fashion. Marcus Peters almost had an interception at one point. He had a nice sideline. He bobbled it and dropped it. Marcus Epps saved a deep touchdown early in the game. If he's one step behind, it's probably a touchdown to Jalen Hyatt. But he did a great job of, deflecting it. Nate Hobbs, 7 tackles, an interception, PBU. Meek Robertson, again, player of the game on defense, other than Max Crosby. The both of them. Interception, forced fumble. The Giants were 2 of 4 when targeting him for 17 yards. He had 2 pass breakups. Defense as a whole had 8 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions. And the offense, 0 turnovers, 0 sacks allowed, 333 total yards. And just for context in this game, the Giants defense was coming off of 3 straight weeks, not allowing the opposition, which was the Bills, Commanders, and Jets, to score more than 14 points in an entire game. The Raiders haven't been able to score more than 21 points under Josh McDaniels this season. They scored 24 in the first half of this game. Now, the Giants were without Darren Waller, Tyrod Taylor. They just traded Leonard Williams. And they lost Daniel Jones at the end of the first quarter, really the beginning of the second quarter. It was really weird. He went down on a sack where he was kind of not contacted, and then Crosby got to him and touched him as he was down. Stayed down for a little bit. First quarter ends. Second quarter, first play, same thing. He goes down, non-contact. He tried to make a move, just goes down. Malcolm Kuntz gets him for the sack. Out for the year, torn ACL. So it was shocking to me that he played through or tried to. I think he tore his ACL in the first play in the end of the first quarter. But yeah, so third string played the rest of the game starting in the second quarter, as well as, Darren Waller, Tyrod Taylor, no Leonard Williams, no Daniel Jones. All valid reasons to not get too excited about this win over a 2-win team. the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Although technically, the Raiders also started their third string quarterback, or at least the guy that was their third stringer to start the season, right? Aidan O'Connell, a rookie, no
Wrongfully
less.
so.
Yes, correct. And now it's been found and realized he is the best quarterback on the roster. Good.
We knew.
Yeah, we knew that. We knew that in the preseason.
Yep.
And this same Raider team lost to a 1-win Bears team 2 weeks ago. So a win is a win, especially a win in which you score 30 points, rush for 125 yards, and have 0 turnovers on 3 days of prep for the coaching staff under your interim head coach against a defense that, again, had been consistently keeping teams down to 14 points or less. It's an impressive win for Antonio Pierce. Do I think Aidan O'Connell and Antonio Pierce are this beginning of a new era? I don't, not quite, right? Not yet. But they're certainly getting a chance to prove themselves to be that, right? Let's see how Aidan O'Connell and the offensive play calling progresses as the season goes on. Antonio Pierce, he has his team fired up. New level of energy, intensity, and hope. And I'm loving what I'm seeing so far, right? And, you compare this to Josh McDaniels, and coaching matters. Coaching absolutely matters. And, this team has the players to get the job done. And now they have the faith and loyalty in their head coach that they needed to push them in the right direction for the remainder of the season. So Antonio Pierce gets his first win in his first game as a head coach. This is a tweet from Scott Gulbranson on Twitter. Pierce was asked today at his presser about why guys bought in right away. And Gulbranson loves his answer. Pierce says, "I'm very appreciative of it. When you're straightforward and don't BS, it is what it is. You don't have to worry about anything." If I'm being honest, that feels like, obviously he's being forward about how he is, but also I think it's a little bit of a jab towards Josh McDaniels, because I don't think things were quite as straightforward with him. And if you've heard a lot of the things that were coming out this week about McDaniels, it's pretty clear how he was.
I'm glad that you said that. Let's talk about this. I really want to talk about this, or at least, I at least want to acknowledge it. Before we do, Joel said, I was hyped that we let go of McDaniels, but the buildup from Antonio Pierce hyped me up even more. So I think it was the combination of both.
The combination, listen, okay, firing Josh McDaniels didn't get me in the seats. Antonio Pierce got me in the seats. So maybe I'm wrong from what I said earlier, but the both of them together, it feels so right. And again, restored hope, right? Even if the season is lost and we can't make the playoffs, I still think there's a shot. There's a shot. I mean, we're 2 games, but right now we're 2 games behind Steelers, Browns, Bengals. You never know. I mean, we're going to get into the upcoming schedule later, but we'll see. But I agree, Joel. But go ahead.
So do you want to read this or yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
Before firing Josh McDaniels, the Raiders had a team meeting where players directed their frustrations at McDaniels and unloaded on him. McDaniels had Antonio Pierce speak on his behalf, and Pierce brought up the Giants' 07 team that beat the undefeated Patriots, explaining how that team believed that they could beat anyone. Pierce said the Raiders need that mindset. The players all loved it, but McDaniels didn't. McDaniels told Pierce when everyone left, "Don't ever talk about the Patriots like that." That's when everyone saw how divided the building was, and owner Mark Davis wanted Pierce as his head coach. And that is via Jay Glazer on Fox. All right, real quick. I've read this tweet before, but one thing that I didn't realize until I just read it out loud right now, McDaniels told Pierce when everyone left, "Don't ever talk about the Patriots like that." That's when everyone saw how divided the building was. So if everyone left, who was there to witness that?
Well, from what I understand, Mark Davis went and talked to many captains of the team and coaches after this meeting happened. So I'm assuming, obviously, Ari Merov kind of took it the wrong way and presented it the wrong way. I'm assuming Antonio Pierce told this to some people, if not solely to Mark Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably obviously it rubbed Antonio Pierce the wrong way. I just read what he said. When you're straightforward and don't BS, it is what it is. Josh McDaniels, you're the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and you don't want somebody to talk about the Patriots like that. Oh my
Dude,
God, I have so many words for you.
I can't believe he said that.
That's insane. That's
all
insane.
right, acting like
Like
somebody's talking about his mom.
Right. Like his family. And
Yeah.
I get it. He has great memories with them and everything, but dude, you got to be a Raider. You can't be a Patriot on the Raiders.
When
That's
I read
ridiculous.
that, I'm like, this dude doesn't even want to be the coach of the Raiders. He just like got the bag.
He's here for the check.
And he's like, he's here. Yeah. He's here to get fired and then go back. Yeah. I guarantee as long as Belichick is back there, that's where he's going back. He's just going to go back and be the offensive coordinator there.
Yeah. I sent a pretty stern text in the group chat. I don't know if you caught it. Please don't read it on here. But basically, the Patriots coaches are good as cooked when Belichick retires. They're done. They're not getting jobs in this league. No.
They didn't evolve with the times, or maybe they weren't good enough,
Yeah.
And it was just all Brady. But the thing is like Belichick was good as a defensive coach on the Giants back, like, when they were rivaling
and the Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Belichick's a great coach. He's obviously a great mind, but his disciples, no. Can you pull up the first tweet that I sent you tonight? It's a video of Antonio Pierce. I think now's the perfect time to show it. Just, going off of what Joel said in the comment. Because I have a very specific thought about this video.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Won some big games. You are a Super Bowl champion. But I'm asking this question to 7-year-old Antonio from Compton, California, who told me his whole life was Kings and Raiders football. How does this win differ from everything else?
Best one. Raiders!
Won some big games.
It almost looked like he was leaning in for a kiss there at the end. I was like, no way.
I have never seen. I don't think I have ever seen a Raiders head coach, especially a standing head coach, yell Raiders like a Raider fan. Okay, they can go Raiders in like a microphone, trying to hype up the crowd, right? I'm sure Gruden has done it before, but I've never seen somebody yell it like they're a fan. Mm-hmm. That video right there meant a lot to me. I can tell you that. And it means a lot, I think, to a lot of Raider fans.
Antonio Pierce right now is on the trajectory to be every Raider fan that's our age, like their favorite head coach of all time
that they've ever seen. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Gruden, McDaniels, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If this team can keep upward momentum by the end of the season, there is no reason why Mark Davis shouldn't, keep him.
Yeah.
And even extend him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe not for like 5 years, but like, if you keep him maybe like 2 more years, let him prove it. Let him prove that it can be sustained, because like at the end of the day, even if there's still upward momentum, I'd say 2 years is appropriate.
Yeah. Hold that for 1 second. Antonio Pierce had the practice squad players on the sidelines. Apparently that wasn't a thing under Josh McDaniels. I thought that was a thing in the NFL, but apparently it's the coach's choice. I didn't know that. But the fact that he changed that first game in, hey, everybody's going to be there. We're a team. That come on, man. Like, that is you developing the team. You're focusing on the team. I love that. It's a small thing, but it's like, yeah, good. Some of those guys are going to be playing next weekend. Of course you want them on the fucking sidelines. So I don't.
Okay, because I'm telling you right now in the NFL, it's not. I don't know whether or not it's prevalent, but if it's not, there's got to be. The coach's mindset is they want to limit the distractions on the sideline during the game. But right now, it seems like Antonio Pierce is using all that to his advantage. You know what I mean? He wants to get these guys together. He wants everybody to feel like they're appreciated in the building, that, he believes in every single one of them. Hey, you could be on the team next week. We need you locked in. We need everybody. And he shook everybody's hands. Even Garoppolo is the guy that, that his first move as a head coach was like, I'm benching your ass. Like,
but he's going to be straightforward with you, right?
Like, I'm not a Raider fan, but right now, if I had to suit up, I would run through a brick wall for that coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Former player, he knows what it is. He's been through it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
like Josh McDaniels, if I had to play for him, I'd probably run headfirst into a brick wall. Not through it.
Yeah.
I would probably just run headfirst into a brick wall, break my neck, and be happy.
So it's nice that under Antonio Pierce, this team feels like exactly that, a team, right? It doesn't feel like analytical people, for a guy with a clipboard, right? This is a team. Okay. Now, hypothetically, if Antonio Pierce wins more games than he loses to end the season, he's got 9 games, I want to say. So let's say he goes 5-4, 6-3. I looked at the schedule. It's possible. Let's say he does that, right? His team plays hard for him and they do it. 6-3, 5-4. Should the Raiders give him the job? Question mark. Now, first, by rule, the Raiders have to open the interim jobs up to an extensive search, regardless of what happens, because they're interim positions, right? So GM, head coach, offensive coordinator. Pierce has a chance right now to get a head start by winning games, winning over the locker room, and the graces of Mark Davis. He's got the ultimate head start on any other guy out there, any other option this offseason. Regardless, they have to look. They have to interview at least 2 candidates of color, right, through the Rooney Rule. They're going to interview more than that. But he's got the head start. Do they have
to interview, like candidates of color? Do they have to? Because didn't Mark Davis get, didn't he break that rule?
It was
when he hired Gruden.
When he got Gruden, it was questionable. But basically, what happened was, I think he already had his choice in mind, but his bullshit way of doing it at the time, because I don't think he wanted to waste anybody's time. And you could say that's a negative thing or a good thing. I don't know. But I'm not Mark Davis. He wanted John Gruden to replace Jack Del Rio, but he had to interview 2 coaches of color. So he interviewed like their tight ends coach and their fucking defensive backs coach from the Raiders. And then he hired John Gruden. So I don't think they ever got penalized. So technically he did it how they have to. But it was clearly the bare minimum, right? There were 2 guys that weren't going to get the job, which is, it's messed up. And I have thoughts about the Rooney Rule. I'm not really going to get into it, but it feels a little counterintuitive sometimes, right? But I also understand the premise of it, and I'm going to leave it at that.
I love when black head coaches get hired.
Dude, the best example is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's one of the top 3 coaches in the league. Period.
Yeah, he's been great for a long time. Sustained success. It seems like every other year the Niners are pumping out a really great head coach into the NFL.
And that's the other part of the rule is the whole third. That's the other part of the rule is the whole 3rd round pick compensation when you have a coach of color leave your organization for a higher role at another organization. It's another thing I have thoughts about, but I'm not going to get into. But
it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder if Kyle Shanahan.
They're incentivized. they're
Yeah.
incentivized to do it. It's like, but
Like,
I
all right,
understand wanting
Robert
to get
Saleh,
more. Go ahead.
Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans were absolutely fantastic candidates. And Steve Wilkes, I still think he can adjust and improve as a coordinator, for the 49ers. I know we're not talking about the Niners right now, but it makes you look at Shanahan a little bit sideways, like, because he had the option of getting Vic Fangio, who had been like at their practices for how long. And, did Shanahan just think, oh, we could hire anybody, so we might as well try and get a 3rd round pick? Makes you think like maybe that was the thought process. Like,
It's
I'm
entirely
not saying
possible
that's what
because
happened. I'm not saying that's what happened, but makes you
it's
think, like, look at it a little bit that way.
It's entirely possible because that's clearly their track record. The amount of comp picks that the Niners have gotten in recent years are insane. And Vic Fangio is a great example. And I also saw a tweet about, they trade for
Chandler Jones.
No.
I
Chase
thought you were
Young.
gonna. Oh, did I?
Chandler Jones, yeah.
No, Chase Young.
You go ahead. You go ahead. You want to trade for Chandler Jones? You go right ahead. Be my guest.
Yeah, we made a deal with the cartel to acquire Chandler Jones. Jesus.
But
yeah,
you gave up a
We're not
3rd round
making it.
pick.
We're not
You
making
gave
it,
up a
Mike.
3rd round pick for Chase Young, and you're likely going to get like at least one 3rd round comp pick this year for letting Mike McGlinchey go. The
Mhm.
Niners know how to do it. Another team that's done that very well in recent years is the Ravens. I'm sure the Patriots have known how to do that for a long time. These teams that are uber successful, they're like that for a reason because they know how to do it, all of it. So, yeah. But, I mean, all I was saying was, when it comes to that role, as far as hiring coaches from other teams and yada, 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 it's like these teams are incentivized to have their, offensive and defensive coordinators be of color just so that they can leave for another team. So if you're a successful team like under Shanahan and Mike McDaniel and Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans are all right of color, when they leave, you're getting 2 3rd round picks each. And the Ron Carthon, how do you say his name?
Rand Carthon, I think.
Rand Carthon. GMs as well, right? So if you have an assistant GM in place and they get hired as a GM at another team, if they're of color, have fun with your 2 3rd round picks that you just acquired for free.
To the 49ers and Shanahan's credit, these have all been great candidates, and they've all been successful everywhere they went.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
Carthon, he still has a lot of work to do, but Mike McDaniel has been very successful in Miami so far. D'Amico Ryans looks to have a great young quarterback, and a pretty good team that he's building there. And Robert Saleh is surviving without Aaron Rodgers. Like, Saleh looked like he was struggling a little bit, but they got through some really tough games. They beat Philly 2 weeks ago.
Well, just look at the Jets defense. I think that proves how great of a coach Saleh is. Their defense is a top 10 defense in the league, and he's a defensive minded coach. I have no issues with these coaches. I'm not trying to catch hell for what I've been saying, but in that sense, I don't care I don't care if he's purple. I don't care if he's green. If he's a good coach, I want him on my team. If Antonio Pierce is the guy, I want him on my team. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the renewal and this and that, how it affects the team. I just want the best coaches. I want the Raiders to succeed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just think, incentivizing teams to, blah, 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 or forcing teams to look at blah, 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 blah. It's like,
I think forcing teams to interview.
I think that one's okay, but incentivizing is a little weird.
No, I think it's the other way around, because I think incentivizing is working because it's actually getting results. Forcing people to interview people of color who are not going to get the job, it's wasting their time. And it's like giving them this false sense of hope that they're going to get hired. Whereas look at the 49ers. The Niners are racking up, third round picks, but they're actually
And
pumping out great candidates.
And they're developing
I mean?
these coaches too. Yeah, no, I see that. Yeah.
I mean, maybe these coaches would have shined without the 49ers. You know what I mean? I'm over here saying they're pumping out candidates, but it's like they clearly have a good, group of talent, at coaching. And, it's working out for both parties in this,
Right. And I mean, coaches coming out of the Niners Shanahan tree have been very successful, I would say. So, but all that being said, where
let's bring it back. Raiders, Giants.
By rule, the Raiders have to open up an extensive search for their head coach and GM and offensive coordinator positions in this offseason. So yeah, I mean, let's say they go 5-4, 6-3 under Pierce. Do you run it back with Pierce, Champ Kelly, even possibly Bo Hardegree? I don't see why not. Right? I think if this group proves on half season's notice that they can go out there and win games more than they lose games,
you have to bring them back.
Hell yeah, you give them an off season. Yeah, hell yeah, you give them an off season to load up, build the team the way that they want to do it, get a full off season to really go through the play calling motions, right? And probably Aiden O'Connell would be the starter. Mm-hmm. And then you can just go in the draft and draft a corner, draft a linebacker, draft something that you really need. I mean, you could argue QB is still a need, and it's never a bad thing to upgrade a quarterback, but I think I'd be more inclined to see a corner or a linebacker drafted in the first round and wait on quarterback until we really know who this offense is run by.
Mm-hmm. This offseason, we're going to learn if Mark Davis learns from his mistakes, because there's two mistakes that we can absolutely take a look at to see if Mark Davis learns. First is getting, let's just say the Raiders make the playoffs or are, finish the season with a winning record under Pierce. You know what I mean? Like, in the remaining games that Pierce has.
Yeah.
The mistake they made with Bisaccia and not staying with the guy that is like proven to take your team from point A to point B.
And has the locker room fully behind him.
Yes.
Crosby and Carr were very upset when Bisaccia was let go.
Okay. So we'll see if he learns from that mistake. And then the second mistake to see if he learns from is all right, I think it would be a mistake if after this season, no matter what happens, to give Antonio Pierce a long-term deal. No matter what happens. Unless he wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I would give him a 2-year deal. Because I mean, Antonio Pierce wasn't expecting this a month ago, right? Maybe a week ago, but I would give Antonio Pierce a 2-year deal and say, hey, here you go, man. Here's 2 years to go out there and show me what you really got. You get 2 off seasons to go out there and do that. Like, I think Antonio Pierce would take that. If I were him, I'd take it. Shit. He probably didn't expect to be anywhere near a head coaching candidate for at least 10 years from now. Right? Maybe less.
Honestly, if you think about it, like, even if he doesn't have a winning record by the end of the season, if the fans are still loving him and eating it up, just bring him back. If it's what the fans want to see, like I don't know, it's really fun to watch, even from somebody who doesn't root for the team.
Yeah, and I mean, the last thing I'll say about this, like, obviously the remainder of the season will really tell us more as far as how we feel and how the offense looks, how the defense continues to look. And we'll see how the coaching staff rolls around, come a couple weeks into the offseason. But I will say, I think regardless, the offensive staff will probably have some turnover. They still have Matt Lombardi, brother of Mick Lombardi, who was the offensive coordinator. Matt Lombardi's an assistant still. And they also still have Danny Amendola as a special teams assistant right now. So there's still some major Patriots ties on the offensive staff, and I wouldn't expect them to stick around. If they were to continue with the current coaching staff, as far as, the main three with Pierce, Patrick Graham, and Bo Hardigree, I would very much expect Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach, to stay as well. He's been killing it this year with his offensive line.
Mhm.
And then also, as far as Matt Lombardi and Danny Amendola go, granted, Deuce Gruden, the son of John Gruden, is still a strength and conditioning coach on this team. So who knows? We'll see. But my current hope is that Aiden O'Connell progresses into a genuine starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. He doesn't have to be a top 5, top 10 quarterback. Just show that you are a true starting quarterback in this league that is worth giving a shot perhaps next season to be the starter. Perhaps the Raiders can build their roster similar if he proves, to be a good quarterback, similar to the Niners with Brock Purdy's current contract, right? Now, Jimmy Garoppolo's kind of taints that a little bit, but you can go out there this offseason, next offseason, and spend some money, surround him with talent, build up the defense, win some games. So we'll see.
Yeah. Mike, this has been our longest one segment, probably, or at least during the season. But
I expected that.
It has been an absolutely great, this might have been like our strongest conversation through a segment ever. Let's see if we can carry that into the next segment. Raiders versus Jets. Mike, you want me to go first, huh?
Sure.
So going into the Monday Night Football game, I think I was kind of prepared to pick the Jets to win. Because I thought their game against the Giants was, I thought maybe it was like a one-off where, I thought possibly they're not going to not score touchdowns every week. And they didn't score a touchdown against the Chargers. I think they only put up 9 points, and they struggled. And Zach Wilson is just terrible. He is, he's better than me, but if you compare him to the other NFL quarterbacks, I don't know if something just isn't clicking mentally, or if he lost his confidence once, they benched him for Mike White, or, I don't know if he was ever really cut out to be an NFL quarterback. He was, he was pretty good in college at BYU. But something is not working. I don't know if he just needs a change of scenery or what. But the whole rest of the Jets team, I feel like besides maybe, I feel like they could use a little bit more help in their offensive weapons, especially wide receiver and tight end.
Mm-hmm.
But Breece Hall's really good. That defense is really good. And maybe the offensive line could use a little bit more work, but the Raiders just, absolutely curb stomped the New York Giants. And I think I would be not crazy, but I think I have to roll with the hot hand and go with, I'm going to pick the Raiders to win back-to-back games. Or would this? Yeah, back-to-back games.
Yeah.
I think that they've got that energy. I did mention, that the Raiders sort of we looked at videos of the locker room and how they're crazy. Oh, we didn't even talk about them busting out the cigars.
Go ahead.
On the Giants recap.
Go to the tweets that I sent you. There's one with Crosby sitting in the locker room. Pull that one up. It's from Vegas Sports Today. I laughed my ass off at this video.
Okay, let me pull this up.
And then while you're pulling it up, I'll just quickly mention this one. This is from Mo Moten on Twitter. Zach Wilson has been sacked at least 4 times in consecutive weeks. In 4 consecutive weeks, he's been sacked at least 4 times. He was sacked 8 times tonight against the Chargers, which is the same number of sacks the Raiders had against the Giants. And then it's just a gif of Max Crosby like smiling. So,
Good job. Me and him, we would get into it on the sideline. He'd try to hype me up, get under my skin, and we'd go back and forth. But that's just kind of our relationship. He's awesome. He loves football. I love football, and you can just tell he's a student of the game, but at the same time, he has that swag to him where everybody feels it. So I feel like that came to life today.
A lot of the guys said that cigars came from you. What was the thought process on that?
I love cigars, so everybody knows I'm sober, but I love my cigars. So, I wanted the guys, to have some fun after the game. I got the equipment guys to buy them last night and shot over a Venmo and got them taken care of. We had them ready to rock. So it was a lot of fun. Before
I figured it was just like, I didn't think about it. Like, who would have got the cigars, right? I thought maybe Antonio Pierce did it. Like, fuck it, we're going all in. Like, this team's just going to be fun, and everybody's going to love me. I don't know, but the fact that it was Crosby, I don't know. I thought that was funny. I just thought it was funny.
I was watching a little bit of Crosby's interview earlier on Pat McAfee, and he talked about how he's the one who got the cigars and and whatnot. But do you remember last week how I was saying, it seems like there's this energy in the Raiders locker room where I think it was when they were playing basketball, and I was just like, man, next week they're not even gonna have any clothes on, and I think I saw there were some shirtless guys. I'm like, oh, it's happening. I mean, obviously it's an NFL locker room, but it's like, pretty soon in a couple weeks, they're just going to be in their underwear, like cavemen,
Yeah. Well, it won't get that bad, but I fully expected if they beat the Giants, especially the way that they did, I was fully expecting something hilarious out of the locker room, and they did not disappoint. And Crosby's got, he's got that swagger. I think a lot of people, coming off of a win against a 2-win team, and the Raiders barely got their 4th win. It was like, really? Where you're busting out the cigars after you aren't even 500 yet. I think a lot of people kind of probably took it that way. Like, this is just stupid. But you just fired Josh McDaniels. This locker room they feel free, and they feel rejuvenated. They feel like a real team. So I don't know, man. That's the Raiders. That's the Raiders swagger that they've been missing for so long. Fuck it. Let Max Crosby do something. Let him. Yeah, man. This will be the last tweet I have you pull up. There's a tweet up there, 3 tweets below that one from Chris Reed. Okay, this is from the Giants game, but this is from the Giants game, but I mean, in the portion about the Giants, I mentioned the offense seemed to kind of dwindle and not be nearly as good in the second half. And 2 of the touchdowns, I want to say, I could be wrong here, but 2 of the rushing touchdowns for Jacobs, both of them, I want to say were coming off of turnovers by the defense, right? Mm-hmm. This is from the opening drive, this play. This was, I want to say, the first pass play. Obviously, the opening drive was well scripted. Point being here, second half, we're up 24-0, right? We're blowing them out. You don't need to keep it fancy. You just want to run it down, run the clock out, win the game, right? So it seemed like their offense got a little bit more vanilla as the game went on. Mm-hmm. Point being here, I want to see more of this right here. Go ahead and play it. This is just great design. And then after, you can read the tweet too.
You know what else O'Connell brought to the table was the deep ball.
Yeah. The play to Trey Tucker was phenomenal. But that just looks easy. He was wide open. And possibly, no, that was probably, that had to be designed. I was going to say maybe he just was looking for an open zone and just immediately puts his hands up because he's open, but chances are it's the first read.
I think it's in red because it's the first read.
Yeah.
And
But you can read the.
you know,
you
the
can read
reason
the
why I
tweet,
say
too.
that is because in Madden you're supposed to look at the red first, apparently.
But Chris Reed says F slant from 12 personnel, like the structure versus single high, going 5 wide from 2 tight end set is refreshing to see as well. Raiders OC offense coordinator Bo Hardigree is going to be fun to watch develop this season. So, I want to see more of this against the Jets because the Jets have I would imagine, a better defense than the Giants. And it's not going to be every week where
You
you're
could
going to be up
imagine.
24.
No, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
But bear in mind, again, they held the Bills to 14 points. The Commanders have put up points a couple times this season. They held the Commanders to like less than 10, if not 10. And the same for the Jets, if not 13. So the Giants defense, they're no slouches. Like, but again, not every game are you going to be up 24-0 at halftime. So the offense is going to need more of that and less vanilla, make it easy for Aiden O'Connell. They're going to get a full week of prep this week, so hopefully they bring it. But just looking at the Jets and really looking at the way that they played against the Chargers tonight, I think it's up to the Raiders defense once again to go out there and stop the Jets, stop their opponent, right? And they can. The biggest threat is Breece Hall. The Chargers were able to withhold him. And honestly, looking at his numbers, I know you've been trying to trade for him a couple times here the past couple weeks from me on fantasy.
Hey.
But
people could be watching.
Yeah, but if you actually look at his numbers rushing wise, his stats are coming in the passing game. They're actually not running the ball very well.
Well, yeah, they want to get him. They want to get him away from the line of scrimmage because they're getting their ass kicked on the offensive line.
And if that's true, look out, man. I'm Max Crosby. Even the defensive tackles were doing great in this game against the Giants. Maybe Tyree Wilson could step it up a little bit. I mean, Zach Wilson, he doesn't scare me. And this is a home game in a home, in front of a home crowd that, again, is excited, rejuvenated, restored hope, or renewed hope this season. I agree. I see a Raiders win here, but it's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be a pushover the way the Giants were.
Yeah, I can see this being low scoring and really tight going all the way to the end. I don't know if I expect like Aiden O'Connell heroics. And I mean, chances are Sauce Gardner is going to be up against Devontae Adams, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, I would take Devontae Adams, but at the same time, like the track history under McDaniels has been like they'll probably go elsewhere, but this isn't McDaniels, so I'd like to see Devontae Adams get many targets, right? But obviously Sauce Gardner is a threat. But I think it's going to be up to Josh Jacobs again. I'm going to probably say that every week. It's going to be Josh Jacobs, get him going, develop the run, succeed at that, and then open up the offensive play calling and throw it deep a couple times, right? But play smart, play efficient, no turnovers, and hopefully get some turnovers, right? I mean, the key to success is what happened in the Giants game, but that's not going to happen every week again. So,
yeah, the Jets really need this game because I think they're really trying to, keep their playoff hopes alive. That way, in case Aaron Rodgers can sort of pull off a miracle and come back. And then also, Robert Saleh, you could argue that he might be coaching for his job. I know we just gave him a ton of praise, but I think it really sucks. Like, it was his decision to keep Zach Wilson, and like his starting quarterback went down, and a lot of teams would be in shambles without their starting quarterback. But like, at the end of the day, the Jets GM, the Jets owner, their expectation this season was to win the Super Bowl. That's like how they were marketing it, or everybody was hyping them up as like a Super Bowl favorite with Rodgers.
Yeah.
And
And
That
I think
that
losing
quickly
Rodgers.
changed this season.
Yeah, I think losing Rodgers is a perfectly fine excuse to give to Robert Saleh and give him another season. I don't see them firing him unless they really suck. But like, they lost him in week 1, and they're in the running at least. I mean, I know they just lost to the Chargers, and that didn't help. They were 4-3 going into the game. Now they're 4-4, as are the Chargers now. And then the teams currently sitting in the playoffs are like, I think 5-4 or 5-3 or 6-3. You have the entire AFC North currently sitting in the playoffs. I think right now the Bills might be sitting on the outside looking in at the 8th seed, which, that's tough to imagine any team passing up the Bills. But look at it this way. Right now, the Raiders, they haven't hit their bye yet. And, as far as needing wins, that actually kind of doesn't help them. But they're 4-5. Chargers are 4-4. The Jets are 4-4. There's probably other teams that are 4-4. And again, there's a lot of teams that are like 5-3, 5-4. If you beat the Jets, the Raiders beat the Jets, they'd be sitting at 500, 5-5. They'd be above the Jets. The Chargers are playing the Lions. I'd like to think the Lions will win. You'd be sitting above the Chargers, hopefully. And again, losing to the Chargers in week 4, that really hurts. Like, those are the types of games you have to win, right? And that's why McDaniels is fired. It's over and done with. Same for the Steelers game. That's huge. But, man, if the Raiders go on a little 2-game win streak, they're sitting at 500. Look out. I'm not expecting them to make the playoffs, but upcoming schedule. At Miami, tough. At home, Kansas City, tough. Bye week. Minnesota at home. Chargers at home on Thursday Night Football. At Kansas City. At Indianapolis. Finish it out at home against Denver. I think if they beat the Jets, I'm going to say this right now. If they beat the Jets, I think Miami is a very winnable game. Now, if they lose to the Jets, I'm not going to feel confident at all. I'm not saying that I'm confident right now, right? But I think Miami's beatable. They just got held to 14 points by the Chiefs. You pointed out last week, they've only beaten teams with losing records. The Dolphins very well could be fakers. They could be beatable. Now we're going to play them at Miami. That might make it a little tougher, but we'll see. Kansas City, I'm fully expecting losses against them, whatever, but I would like to beat them. And I said before the season, my prediction was we're going to beat them once this season. They have rejuvenated hope in life, and they want to fight for this coach. Maybe they pull out a win against them. Maybe. Minnesota, they can absolutely beat them. Chargers on Thursday Night Football at home, they can absolutely beat them. Kansas City again. But Indianapolis, they can absolutely beat them. Denver, they should absolutely beat them. So let's just say they beat Minnesota, Chargers, Indianapolis, and Denver, as well as the Jets and the Giants. That leaves Miami and both of the Kansas City games 6-3 under Antonio Pierce. That's theoretical, but it's doable, I would say.
We'll see how it plays out.
We will absolutely see.
But
we're going to take it 1 week at a time. And for right now, they're just aiming to be 500 with a win against the Jets. The Raiders.
So you were picking Raiders?
The Raiders. Yep.
Oh, man. So we'll see how that plays out this week. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about the 49ers. Oh.
Sorry.
No, you're good. It just hurt my feelings a little bit.
No, we've spent a lot of time on the Raiders, so go ahead, restart it.
Okay. Let's collect ourselves. All right. Last topic of the day. Okay. Then got to go to bed. All right. Let's get into the 49ers versus Jaguars, Mike. The good news is that the 49ers are not coming off. Well, I guess they are coming off a loss, if technically, but they didn't lose this past weekend. due to the bye week. And one thing that I find interesting about this matchup is that the Jaguars are also coming off a bye. So it's like both these teams had a week off to prepare to like clash against one another. And, I've got PTSD from like the past 3 opponents. I think the Browns might have been coming off a bye going into the Niner game. I want to say I don't know if the Vikings were, but I think who did we just lose to this past week?
Bengals.
Yeah, the Bengals were coming off a bye. So, the Niners keep playing against these teams that are absolutely like being fully prepared and rested right before playing them. And luckily, hopefully this week it can be the Niners that are on the side of being rested. But, the complicated factor is the fact that the Jaguars are also going to be. The Jaguars are, a really solid football team. I think they have the same record as the Niners at 5-3.
They're 6-2.
They're 6-2. Are they?
It's a 4-way. Going into this past weekend, week 9, it was a 4-way tie in the AFC for all 4 top division leaders: the Chiefs, Dolphins,
they are 6-2.
Jaguars, and Ravens. Now the Ravens beat the Seahawks, which helps you guys. The Chiefs beat the Dolphins, but the Jaguars, obviously coming off a bye, they stay the same.
Mm-hmm. The Jaguars are 6-2. They're a really good football team, and I want to say they might have won 5 in a row.
They're probably on a streak. I feel like they started kind of slow.
They did start kind of slow. I think they were like 1-2 at a certain point.
Yeah.
But Trevor Lawrence is, he's very similar to the past 2 quarterbacks that the 49ers faced in Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow, in that, he'll drop back and actually be able to hit receivers outside the numbers, sling the ball around and play, pretty solid football. The thing is like, sometimes Trevor Lawrence can make a mistake here or there. Like, I don't know if it's just the games that I watched and, he's just been, young in the NFL and still getting used to the speed, but, he might make like a decision here or there or a throw here or there that's just like, I bet he wish he could have had that one back. Right.
Yeah. For a first overall pick.
That's typically every quarterback.
Yeah. But for a first overall pick that had so much hype, you would hope. Was he or Burrow chosen first? Like which year, I forget who came first.
Burrow's older.
Okay.
Yeah. Burrow was the draft before.
Yeah, but still, like, I haven't seen Trevor Lawrence play up to his draft standard, I feel like that hasn't come yet. I feel like the Jaguars have been really successful through Travis Etienne this season. And I didn't fully expect that, honestly. And I thought this was going to be the year where Trevor Lawrence like breaks out, but it hasn't happened yet.
Well, I think he's playing well. Like, if we're talking fantasy football, he hasn't broken out, but like,
right.
I actually think that he's playing like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Probably, but the fact that I'm saying probably is what I mean. Like, I should be saying definitely. You know what I mean? Like, for first overall pick, like to break out, like last year, maybe 2 years ago, Joe Burrow broke out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it was like, oh my God, dude, this guy, he's going to be the next great thing. Josh Allen breaks out. Oh my God, dude, he's the next great thing. I have not seen that from Trevor Lawrence yet. And maybe he'll get hot as the season ends, right? But I feel like he has played. And bear in mind, like, I haven't watched a Jaguars game, and some people might watch this and be like, well, that throws out that theory. But I see the stats. I follow through, yes, fantasy football and other things. And I don't know. I haven't been impressed yet. I haven't been like wowed. And hey, this is his chance to do it. That's for sure. But I don't know. I feel like I would be seeing more from him, and maybe the Jaguars just don't have the same, media, you know, magnet, if you will. Like okay, New York, right? If a quarterback plays good in New York, we will never not hear about it. If a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys plays good, we will never not hear about it. We don't hear shit about the Jaguars. You know what I mean? Unless they're like the 1 seed. And they're tied for the 1 seed, or they were. And yet I haven't heard anything about him. So maybe it's just the media is not good with them. And, forgive me if so, but I don't know. I feel like he would be a guy who's like, if he were breaking out or had broken out, he'd be like a must start in fantasy. And I know like, oh, I shouldn't use fantasy to like go off of that. But if he were a top quarterback in this league, he would be a must start every week. And he's not.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the case for Lamar Jackson not being, like Lamar has back-to-back weeks with like 10, 11 points, but he's still like an MVP candidate because his team is, just like he is the quarterback on the best team, or at least one of the best teams, arguably the best team.
Right. I think like, okay, Lamar Jackson's MVP season, he just took over games. And he's done that a few times this year, but there are also games where he's not taking over. His MVP season, he did every single week. And yes, he's winning, and winning will help him get there. And again, I said it last week, he could be in the race. But also my key thing was last week, nobody has broken apart from anybody else as far as who should be the MVP. Like Patrick Mahomes hasn't done anything this season to me that says he's got to be the MVP again. He hasn't. I think right now, to me, the leading candidate for MVP is Joe Burrow because he's on a fucking tear right now.
Yeah, I would have to pick Joe Burrow as well.
And statistically, and if this guy gets hot as the season ends, Josh Allen. But right now, whether it's through games that I've seen and also being on primetime and beating Josh Allen, Joe Burrow is getting very hot right now. And he's also getting the press of like, oh, he started the season hurt, but now he's healthy. And oh boy, Joe Burrow. Again, you're not going to hear anything about that with Trevor Lawrence unless he goes nuclear 3 weeks in a row. Right.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry. I'm not trying to dig on Trevor Lawrence. Like he's a fine quarterback and everything. I'm just saying, like, he's not breaking out, taking control, winning games for the Jaguars. He's just doing enough. He's essentially a very pretty field general right now. No offense. Like I'm saying he's like above that. He's above a field general, right? But that's what his stats tell me.
I just think that Trevor Lawrence plays in like, he plays
his level
in
of competition
such a
isn't as high.
That like, he doesn't. I feel like he doesn't throw a lot of like deep balls. He doesn't throw a lot of balls. Yeah, I know he can, but like I'm like struggling to think about a play where like Trevor Lawrence like absolutely aired it out over the top and like scored like a long touchdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
he's missing that, but he's very good at, like I said, he makes very impressive throws outside the numbers or, sometimes in tight windows, and he can actually run. His running ability is very underrated.
Yeah, I'm sure he's made many beautiful throws, tight windows, all of that. I just haven't seen him, And I feel like if this were a clear-cut MVP candidate or something like that, or a broken out, first overall guy, I would see those, But it's the Jaguars.
I'm not saying he's an MVP candidate.
I know. I forgot we weren't talking about MVP for him. It was more of just first overall pick, breaking out, yada yada. But
in comparison to the rest of the draft class, he's clearly the best one. Clearly.
Yeah. But I think as far as his case goes, it seems like the Jaguars are not a team that's dependent on him, whereas a team like maybe here and there, the Ravens might be. Definitely the Bengals and Bills at times depend on their quarterbacks to make insane plays. 3rd and 10, Joe Burrow gets not wrapped up, but he gets multiple 49ers defensive linemen's hands holding his jersey, and somehow he gets out of it and throws it to T. Higgins on the run. That play was insane. That play was an MVP play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And other quarterbacks can do that. Like, it's not the play that's going to get him the MVP. It's going to be consistently doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the only guy right now that's consistently doing it. And again, back to the Jaguars. This team is very much going through ETN from what I see. And again, Trevor Lawrence is fine. He's good. He might be great, but he hasn't shown that. But it's a good team. This is a good team, and they don't need to depend on Trevor Lawrence to throw 4 touchdowns a game, right? And that's probably what's doing that and what's causing that. He could break out at any moment, but they don't need him to. So
they're a good team with a smart head coach, a Super Bowl winning head coach at that.
Yep.
Mike, tell me what's your take, your prediction for the way this game is going to play out, and then I'll talk about. I'll gear the rest of the commentary more towards the Niners because I feel like we just sort of went on a
Trevor Lawrence
Jaguars,
tear.
Trevor Lawrence tear.
Yeah, as the season goes on, we'll probably start talking more about like MVP and all that. But where is this game being played? It's in Jacksonville. Yeah. Oh boy. I wish I knew what you were picking. Oh man. I also wish I looked at a stat of what is Shanahan's record coming out of the bye week, because I know Andy Reid's is 99 out of 100 he's going to win the game. I don't know what that is like with Shanahan, but the same could be said for Doug Peterson, right? They both are coming out of the bye, and yet the Niners are the team that have to travel. They have been a pass funnel on defense. But I think they're going to be healthier. And I think that they can limit Travis Etienne better than probably most teams that have faced the Jaguars can. I think I'm going to go with the Niners. I think they're finally going to bounce back after 3 straight losses. I do not expect 4 straight.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I know I just killed the suspense right there, but I think that having this week off came at the perfect time. I think maybe a week sooner might have helped a little bit more in terms of helping their chances of getting the 1 seed in the playoffs. And the Niners just need to win football games in order to keep that hope alive. It starts this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the person who needs to make the most improvement this week is Steve Wilks. He needs to we need to see if he calls the defense a little bit differently to have the corners force the quarterbacks to beat you over the top instead of giving them just all the space in the world to complete short passes and then have these long sustained drives. Because, I was listening to Larry Krueger and Grant Cohn earlier, and Larry was, sort of talking about how the 49ers are, they're playing so, so off the ball and allowing quarterbacks to get into rhythms, and, he would like to see the Niners, sort of force teams to, challenge them deep. And, I would like to see the same thing too. And I understand the logic of, if you get the offense to run more plays and eliminate the chunk plays, they're bound to make mistakes. But really, I think when the only option they have is to go deep, I mean, those are deep balls are way lower percentage, plays that are going to be hit, and then this defense is talented. Just a year ago, Talanoa Hufanga was an All-Pro. Tayshaun Gibson has, some of the most turnovers in the NFL, at least for somebody, I know he's a veteran, but like, let me see how many career turnovers. Tayshaun Gibson turnovers. Let me see here. Career. He's got 33 career interceptions. I think that's pretty good.
No, that's great.
That's fantastic. And in how many years? Hold on.
It's been around.
In 165 games, 33 interceptions. I still think that's
probably around. He's probably on year 10 or 11 in his career.
Yeah. Well, let me see.
If not 12.
How many years has Tayshaun Gibson been? I wish when you Google something, it just gave you the straight up answer.
Right. Yeah.
He's been in the league since 2012, so this is year 12. Year
11 or 12.
11. Yeah, 11 or 12.
Because it's 2023, so that's at least 11. But it might technically be 12. I don't know.
Yeah, because like the 20. I mean, what was
because 2022 would be like year 0 essentially.
Or 2012 would be 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Yeah, so it's year 12.
That is a veteran.
Yeah. It's late at night when I have to use the fingers to count. But going back, I do predict that this will be the week that the Niners finally do make the adjustments. And if they don't, they're in a lot of trouble because the rest of the schedule is going to just get harder. And I mean, the 49ers are a team where, if you back them up against the wall, they've proven that they can fight their way back. Like, they had their back against the wall in 2021, 2022. And, obviously every year is a little bit different, but, the main core of guys are experienced in this position. The only two that are not, I would say, are Steve Wilkes and Brock Purdy. And they play very pivotal roles in this team. Like if you had to distinguish what's the difference between this team and the 21 and 22 teams, it's like, the defensive coordinators are different. The quarterback is different.
And they're also not in relation to like playoff history and previous history with the team, but right now they're probably the two guys with the most eyeglasses on them because they're struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So, I mean, we have to see Purdy eliminate the turnovers. I think for the most part, Purdy's playing well, except for like those turnovers that just like absolutely like, game's over. You know what I mean? Like the 49ers have unfortunately put him in the position over the past 2 weeks and really 3, but Purdy did lead like what would have been a game-winning drive against the Browns, but he played bad. He played badly against the Browns. You know what I mean? But against the Vikings and against the Bengals, there were opportunities late in the game, and Purdy just gave it away. And you could chalk it up to his concussion. It doesn't matter. He was on the field. If you're on the field, you have to play. You still have to play football. They don't give you a handicap, because you're a little banged up. And if you're banged up to the point where it's hindering your play, your best bet is to stay off the field, especially if it's a concussion, because you don't want the second impact.
Mhm.
But Purdy's, I think, fully recovered from that. And, he had the bye week to really rest. The Niners should be getting Deebo Samuel back, which will help spread out the field. I don't know if they'll be getting Trent Williams back. I hope that if he's not 100% or anywhere near 100%, that they just hold him out another week and try to, Kyle Shanahan, you've had a week to prepare. I don't know if you just need to buy a poster board from Walmart and, carry around a bigger play sheet because that's what you just look at the entire game. But I would like to see a lot more creativity, pre-snap motion, not just with Kyle Juszczyk, but I would like to see Deebo go in motion and take a jet sweep here and there. Back in 2019, you used to even run jet sweeps with Kittle, or not jet sweeps, but it would
Motion.
be Kittle would go in motion and take a handoff. That doesn't really happen anymore. Kittle's just primarily a blocker now, and then occasionally we'll go out for routes. And the offensive line needs to play better, primarily the right side. It's going to be a challenge to see. I think Aaron Banks is going to be out this week and possibly next week. So that's another big thing to look at. They're going to be playing with, besides Jake Brendel, how many of these offensive linemen would actually start on other teams?
Yeah,
If you don't have Trent Williams, I don't think Colton McKivitz would start anywhere else. I don't know if Spence Burford would start anywhere else. I think Jake Brendel might be able to start somewhere else. He was a Pro Bowler last season. Aaron Banks not being in, I think, leaves it up to John Feliciano to step up in his place. Yeah. Feliciano did start last season, right? A couple games for the Bills.
Probably, but he was probably their backup. But I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one thing that we didn't touch on as far as the Jaguars go, and it's something that definitely needs to be brought up. Although I find the Niners offense to be one of the top offenses in the league, and it's definitely been their strength this season. But we haven't talked about the Jaguars defense, and really, there's not many well-known players on their defense. They have Josh Allen, which you automatically think about the Bills quarterback, but Josh Allen is a guy who I remember the Raiders taking Clelin Ferrell above, and I was like, sitting there like, oh my God. But let's just look at what they've done this season. What has the Jaguars defense done this year? Week 1, Jaguars 31, Colts 21. Week 2, Chiefs 17, Jaguars 9. Week 3, Texans 37, Jaguars 17. So far, not so good. Okay. In London, Jaguars 23, Falcons 7. That was a good game for the defense, but the Falcons are kind of weird. Also in London, Jaguars 25, Bills 20. Now, maybe being in London might be a part of that. The Jaguars got to stay in London. The Bills were coming to London, obviously, that week. But still, you limit Josh Allen and the Bills to 20. That's pretty good. Beating them alone, that's pretty good. The following week, they didn't have a bye. Or maybe they did have a bye, actually. No, they're coming off a bye now.
Yeah, they're coming off a bye.
They're probably the one team that left London and didn't get a bye. Jags 37, Colts 20.
Did the Jaguars leave London?
Well, yeah, in that game, yes. Because I'm seeing underneath both of the scores for the Falcons and Bills, it says NFL London games. Colts game, nothing.
Wasn't the Jaguars, didn't they play back-to-back London games?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Bills and the Falcons. The Falcons game was a home game for the Jags. The Bills game apparently shows that it was actually a Bills home game. Even though I would have figured it would be the Jaguars, but and then the Jags against the Colts shows that it's a home game for the Jaguars. And I'll just click on it and it says at Everbank Stadium, in Jacksonville. And that was literally a week. It was October 8th against the Bills, October 15th against the Colts. So they're on a win streak now, 3 games, Falcons, Bills, Colts. Following week, the 19th, they beat the Saints 31-24. And then 2 weeks ago, last week, as of today, Monday, whatever day it is, they beat the Steelers 20-10. Steelers offense, I don't know, but they seem to have gotten a little uphill. Like you said, they started slow. They started 1-2, and they've gone on a 5-game win streak. So, and again, I don't really know many players on the Jags defense, but it seems like their defense is capable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think, oh man, having Debo back, I think is pretty, is a huge factor because defenses can't like hone in on Brandon Ayuk and Christian McCaffrey.
yeah.
Because for whatever reason, Shanahan just like doesn't drop that many plays for Kittle anymore. Like, you're paying the man to make an impact, and he is making an impact blocking, but like that's not the sole reason why you pay a tight end.
Mm.
So I would like to see them get Kittle more involved, so that way, you want the defense to spread out, so that way they're not just clogging the middle and waiting for Brock Purdy to, throw a floater over the middle.
Yeah. Seems like Andre Cisco is having a good season for them at safety. Let's see here.
I really feel like the key to the game is limiting the damage, that the Travis Etienne is inevitably going to, produce.
Yeah.
And really we need more aggression out of the corners.
Yeah. You want to talk about an first overall pick that has not broken out? Completely forgot about him. Travon Walker.
Who?
First overall pick. Yeah, exactly. Travon Walker. I believe the second. Mike Jones. Okay, let's see. What the hell? Wait. When was he drafted? Let me search him up. Travon Walker. Okay.
While you search that up, I don't know if the Niners will be able to fix their run defense by the end of the season. Like I know.
Run defense or pass defense? Sorry.
No, their run defense. I feel like they could fix their pass defense, and adding Chase Young absolutely will help as long as they don't open the floodgates for the short passing game.
Mm.
But their run defense, I was listening to Larry talk about it today, and and Grant talk about it, and they talked about how they essentially traded away a bunch of their pieces that they had in the past for Javon Hargrave. So instead of re-signing Jimmy Ward, who was a run defender, instead of re-signing Samson Ebukam, instead of re-signing Azeez Al-Shaair,
yep,
you know what I mean? All guys that definitely
roles.
helped.
Yeah.
Huh?
They played
roles, and Hassan Ridgeway was also a good run stopper. Javon Hargrave, he's a really good pass rusher, and I'm not saying that he's not a great run defender. But he's getting paid to rush the quarterback, and I think the unit as a whole has been struggling. And I'm just tired of the Niners, paying people top dollar to not produce. It happens to everyone.
Yeah,
Like,
and especially when you put it in that sense of, yeah. Well, I think when you put it in that sense of, one player for four, that makes it really tough when he's not killing it, play in and play out, right? Like you could have those four guys that were making plays, not all the time, but they were making pivotal plays here and there on this defense and helping in run stopping or even in the passing game, right? And now you just have a defensive tackle who probably more than half the time isn't getting to the quarterback, obviously, right? If he was getting to him half the time, he'd have insane numbers, but that's tough on the defense. So,
yeah.
and then now, you trade for Chase Young. It's like you could have had all those four guys and traded for Chase Young to help on the D line. It's like, what's the difference if you think about it? It's a big difference.
Mm-hmm. I said something, and it's just like something that's like, low key bothered me over the past couple years. But it's like as soon as we pay, we pay our players, they just like, all right, see you later. Thanks for the memories.
Goodbye to that intensity.
Yeah, and I'll go down this list because I just want to right now. Eric Armstead, Deebo Samuel.
Mm-hmm. Would you say Kittle?
George Kittle. Let's see.
I feel like Kittle's been mostly impacted by injuries, though, and
Yeah,
a lot of talent around him.
Still,
I don't think he's ever.
You get what I mean? Like they don't, and it's not Kittle's fault. And
Yeah.
some of these players, it's not their fault. It's like they're kind of phased out of the game plan.
But I
It's like,
I get it. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who else. It's really late. I'm super
Nick-
tired. And the daylight
Nick Bosa.
savings. Who?
Yeah.
Oh, that
Nick
guy.
Bosa.
No, just
Yeah.
yeah. Which player is that again?
It's the defensive lineman. I believe he's number 90. Is it 7? 97 or?
I don't know who you're talking about. He doesn't show up on Sundays. There's a guy who kind of looks like him.
He kind of like goes like this sometimes.
Oh yeah, you know what? I think I do remember a little bit. Yeah,
Like
that guy.
This is what we do when we're asked who's Nick Bosa. We go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, just
Nick,
really quick. Go ahead.
Hey Nick, on those sacks that you've gotten this season, how many defenders did you beat? I don't know. No,
I don't know, but I don't care. I'm getting paid.
I really like Nick Bosa. I'm just like, every single time we pay somebody, it's like, Garoppolo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Malcolm Butler.
I saw that one. I saw that.
Or was it Malcolm Smith? No, not Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Smith.
Malcolm Smith.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Jerick
You are
McKinnon.
tired. Yeah. Did you guys pay Carlos Hyde?
No.
I was talking about Trayvon Walker earlier. 2022 NFL draft. The players that were picked after him: Aiden Hutchinson, Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner, Kayvon Thibodeau. And then a bunch of offensive tackles: Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, so on and so forth.
He was the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, it was not expected. It was supposed to be Aiden Hutchinson the whole way, and then 3 days before the draft, it was like, well, there are rumors that the Jaguars like Trayvon Walker, and it was like, oh boy, and they did it.
I don't know if I've ever heard his name in my life. No offense to him.
I'm sure you did when the draft happened, but he was so forgettable. He's from Georgia's great defense, but he was more like a Cleveland Farrell, like a good run defender, not great pass rusher. And that's exactly, it seems statistically, like that is the case.
Trayvon Walker, I apologize if you ever watch this video, and I just want you to know if you do see it and you kick the Niners' ass, I understand. This is a really good show, so I understand that you took your time to watch this show. So appreciate it. And, tweet about it. I'd really appreciate it. I'm so tired, Mike.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going with the Niners.
Yeah, go ahead and put it in there.
Yeah, I'm going to put it in there.
Yeah, it should be a good game though. I hope it's a good game, right?
Jaguars. I think it'll be a good game. Like I said, you have to limit Travis Etienne because he will just get going, and he only gets better as the game goes along. He's one of those running backs. And then
I think this can be, but it may not be, but it certainly can be a very high scoring game.
Oh,
I get
100%.
Yeah, I could see a big high scoring game coming on here.
Mm-hmm. Or it can be a get right game for the 49ers. Not necessarily a get right game, but like they need to get back into 49er football ASAP. You know what I mean? And Jacksonville. All right, let's see like the remaining schedule before we get out of here. 49ers schedule. All right. Niners schedule. They've got the Jaguars and the Buccaneers. I think they'll be able to beat the Buccaneers.
Yeah, at home.
They've got the Seahawks.
In Seattle, looks like, is that a Thursday night game or?
Yeah, it's a Thursday night game, I believe.
Is that Thanksgiving then?
Is it? Oh,
I think it is because it's my mom's birthday, and usually she falls right around Thanksgiving. So.
No, it can't be Thanksgiving. No.
We'll look up. I mean, the Cowboys would be on Thanksgiving or the Lions. Yeah, you guys have a Thanksgiving game. I know that. I remember because you have Thanksgiving and Christmas.
It is Thanksgiving. Isn't... Oh, yeah. Thanksgiving is supposed to be the... Is it supposed to be the last Thursday of the month? Or is it supposed to be...
If the 4th.
Oh, okay.
The 4th.
I'm just so used to Thanksgiving being like...
It's
right
usually
next
the last, but sometimes it can be out of 5.
But okay, back to the schedule, so we can get out of here. Niners versus Eagles. That's going to be a tough
Seahawks, one. At Seahawks, and then you get 13 days of rest or whatnot at Eagles, but then you come back home, Seattle, and then go to Arizona, which. I mean, they're going to have Kyler, potentially James Conner as well. They're going to be at full force for once. And then Chris.
Fuck, man.
Wake up!
I hope the Niners don't play the way that I'm treating this segment. And if you've watched this far to see me like struggle to get through it, it's 12:30 in the morning. Daylight savings. It's supposed to be 1:30 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. It's supposed to be 1:30 right now. I'm chugging along, and I got a long day tomorrow. So I appreciate you for sticking with us. All right. It's not looking that bad, actually. I thought it might be worse. I just saw the Ravens, I saw the Eagles, saw the Seahawks, but really outside of that, like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's Jaguars, Eagles, Ravens, that's pretty tough. Jaguars, then again, I could see them being not fakers, but like a team you guys should beat. And then 2 games against the Seahawks is really interesting. You guys win at least one, if not both. It's the Eagles and Ravens for me that are like, oh shit, like look out. Now, I don't think the Buccaneers, even the Cardinals, should be slept on. The Rams at the end of the season, they might be a team that's not interesting for like the playoffs, but like they can win games, right? I think all of these teams, other than maybe the Commanders, might give you fits at times, but you also should beat most of them. Like if I'm looking at all these, it's 9 games. I would say you guys should win 6 of them, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 and
So
3, and right now you're what? 5
we're
and 4.
5-3.
Okay, so
So that would
you
put
have
us at
6 losses,
11
and
and
6.
6.
Like,
I don't
that's
like it.
good, but it's not the 1 seed. But
Mm-hmm.
I think at that rate, you'll win the division. It's really just a matter of what does Detroit do? Does Detroit kick you guys down to the 3rd seed, potentially even the 4th seed? If who else? The Saints or Falcons or Bucks, they're not going to win 11 games, so you'll have the 3rd seed locked. But that makes the divisional round tough because you're going to go and face probably Detroit in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Do they scare you? I don't know, but it's not at home.
Well, it doesn't matter if they scare me or not. It's the Niners who's got to play them.
Right, but
No, I get what you mean. Like, yeah.
you
But-
said it best earlier. The Niners need to win. They just need to win.
They absolutely just need to win. Like, they need to take care of what they can control. And right now, it's against the Jaguars. And, you know, the ball is in the 49ers' court. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Maybe not for the 1 seed. We'll see. But the only thing they can control is what's in front of them. So, yeah. Christmas might suck this year.
Yeah, the Raiders play the Chiefs on Christmas. I'm hoping for a Christmas miracle, but I don't expect it.
What do you say, Mike? You and I run out to the store and grab some extra eggnog this year for
They're going to say
Christmas.
like a noose.
No, I didn't want to go that dark. I just wanted some eggnog. Mike ruined Christmas. Oh my God. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm sorry that like I was completely brain dead for like maybe the second half. But you know what? It was still a really good episode, I think. The first segment we had, like the first hour, hour 15.
Dude,
amazing.
I stayed up for like 2 hours last night just putting my notes together for the Raider game. But yeah, I was all in on that. So
Yeah.
and it was lots of good conversations. So and then just last thing, because now you have the please comment, like, and subscribe. It's kind of last minute bullshit. For one thing, I mean, just you talking about the schedule and everything and like Christmas just kind of puts me in the mode of like, oh man, the off season's coming up. Like this off season for the Raiders is going to be so interesting. So interesting. And then obviously the playoffs, how the Niners do, that's obviously going to be interesting. Super Bowl, right? And then last thing, like I got this nice, beautiful hat at the Raider game. I love it so much, but I also got this shirt.
That's pretty cool.
Dude, I saw it. I was like, I have to get that. That's too cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is really cool. What would be like, even like, I'm not saying the shirt isn't cool, but what would be really even cooler is if they had one that had Tecmo Bowl and Bo Jackson on it.
Yeah.
Because Tecmo Bowl was the game
that was the game that was like him.
That was the Bo Jackson game.
Yeah. And then I also got like the game day book. It's got Ken Stabler. This thing's thick. Look at this. Like crazy. So
I see it's got pictures.
yes, lots of ads. Honestly, that's kind of why it's so thick, though. Because usually the game day books are like literally like a third of this thickness.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I've got a game day book that the Pia's brother gave me from the Niners Cardinal game. Yeah. Anyways, everybody, thank you for tuning in to episode 21 of the Silver and Gold. Again, I apologize for running out of steam, and hopefully I'll be better next week. But still a great show, and have a great night, everyone.